Candypants lifestyle podcast. Interviewing the world's industry leaders on their journey.
Where do we go from here?
Hello, and welcome along to the Candypants lifestyle podcast. I'm Nick, and if you're a fan of podcasts hosted by nervous-sounding Geordies, well, you're in exactly the right place. This week, we roll out the boys who built Couture Club. Ross and Scott started selling t-shirts from their bedroom before going on to build one of the biggest names in UK fashion that's giving the high street heavyweights a run for their money. It's not very often you hear from people who have reached the height that they have talk with the honesty that they do about their business. The boys give us a fascinating look behind the scenes into both the highs and lows of building one of the UK's biggest fashion success stories. Whether you know Ross and Scott already or not, after listening to this podcast, it really is hard not to be both blown away by what they've achieved, but also feel like few people deserve it more than they do. As always, a large part of me hopes that no one's listening. But if you are, I know you're going to enjoy this one. It's the story of how they tore up the rulebook, turning two boys from Manchester into a fashion force to be reckoned with. This is the journey of the boys who built Couture Club, Ross Worswick and Scott Shashua. Ross, Scott, thank you so much. Not for coming on once, but actually coming on twice. Like, we won't go into the technical problems, let's just say, we've had with this podcast. Bit embarrassing for me, but I mean, it was great first time, so fingers crossed it can only get better.
Hopefully, mate. Yeah, and thanks for having us both on as well. I think we really enjoyed it last time, and hopefully we'll get it across the line this time.
I mean, so many people are just genuinely fascinated about how you guys went from essentially like selling t-shirts from your bedroom to now being this kind of online monster with like stores on the high street. I feel there's a thing now where you literally cannot go to a UK airport without seeing someone wearing Couture Club. What's that like for you two? Like, to see people wearing it or see the bag, or how does that feel?
I don't think I've ever been to an airport in the last 3 years where I've not been fuzzy-eyed through alcohol on a stag do or something like that, mate. So, no, it's good, mate. I actually had a kid come up to me and say, look at me, I've got Couture Club on. I was buzzing, absolutely on top of the world.
Yeah, for me, I absolutely love it. And I think what I love more is like when my parents go away, something like that, and they've always been, like, since we started, obviously, fans of it and interested. And when they see someone, and they always send me pictures when they're at the airport, I think it's when your parents see it, it's even more satisfying, because it's like they can see, obviously, the hard work that we're all putting in is obviously paying off. And for me, it's when you see it in that unexpected places, like Trafford Centre, we see it a lot. And if I go in there and within the first 10 minutes I'm not seeing someone with a bag or wearing it, I'm panicking a little bit. But it's when you see people in places that you don't expect it at all. Like, I've been driving my car before, like, and I've had like my girlfriend in the car, and I've seen someone wearing a t-shirt and a cap, and it might be on like a dog walk, or they might be just out and about. And I'm like, look, Couture Club, like that. And I do it all the time. It's one of them, it never gets old. And I don't think it ever will do, because it's our baby. And as we'll go into this podcast, like, we started like literally from the very bottom with it, and probably with one of the lowest budgets that anyone started a clothing brand with, really. And for us to grow and build it to this kind of levels, you know what I mean? It's amazing. I think when we both started, being 100% honest with you, it's exceeded both what we expected from the start. So yeah, it's really exciting.
So, like, before we get into like how you actually built Couture Club, do you want to tell us, like, both of you, just a little bit like what you were actually doing beforehand?
Yeah, do you want to go, Scott?
I think I had another podcast last night, actually, and I couldn't have explained it any better. So, the reason why is because the things I was doing in the past have helped me so much with Couture Club. So, believe it or not, we were the first guys to bring in the selfie stick, and we sort of took it to this event. The next day, everyone was screaming about it at this event, and then the next day we bought 100 off eBay. that was the Friday. On the Sunday, I was on a flight to China, and we sourced it. And you go to this Chinese sort of market, and there's loads of selfie sticks, but then you have to go to another market for the boxes and another market for the labels. So it was mad, and we learned so much about creating a brand and sourcing products. Following on from that, Selfridges called us and said, we'd really like to stock the product, and then it was a catalyst effect, and we were pretty much in every UK retailer you could think of. And then at the same time, me and Ross were working together on nightclub events, and we ran this really successful Thursday night on in Manchester, and Ross was doing similar things in Marbella, and when he was back in the summer, we were teaming up together to sort of put on like real show-stopping events. But then from the event scene, it was like every single Thursday, and you'll know yourself with Candypants, instead of just being a Visa, it was a Visa by NBA stars, or it was a Visa by R&B night, or a Visa by DJ Rusky, a special DJ, or whatever it might have been. But when we've gone into Couture Club, we learned so much, because the first thing that we said we were never going to do is wholesale the brand, because from Selfie Stick, the reason why that sort of fell off the edge of a cliff was because we were doing so well with our online business, and then as soon as we put it into Selfridges and Costco, and their marketing spends are through the roof, we lost all our sales online where we were actually making the most money. So we've had a lot of approaches from like your JDs and Foot Asylums and people like that, but we've just said no, because the revenue that we can drive online, and we don't want a retailer to dictate when we go into sale and how much our prices should be. And, you worry that if it doesn't do well in a retailer, that they're going to put it at the front of the shop on a huge discount. So we've just stayed clear of that. And then back to Avisa, having to think of a new concept every single Thursday, and think of it, create content and give our sort of customers a reason to come back to us on a Thursday rather than going to another night on a Friday or a Saturday, sort of led the way for Couture Club to sort of, again, right at the start, just create products and release them every single week rather than every month or every 2 months like the bigger brands do. So, every single Thursday, whether it was a T-shirt or a T-shirt and a hoodie, there would be 1 or 2 products that were being released. But we had an excuse to send a newsletter, we had an excuse to send, a huge Instagram campaign and things like that. So the 2 learnings that I had from what I was doing previously with nightclubs and Selfie Stick have really sort of set us up in good shape with Couture Club.
And what about you, Ross?
We started, obviously, and this is how we met as well, was the nightclub scene, and that's probably one of the first things that really kicked it off is all the contacts that we made over the years. But then also, obviously, from doing the nightclub things and being out about quite a lot, I ended up obviously doing a reality TV, which I'm sure you know about, and that kind of propelled everything really. And that was partly one of the reasons why we actually started the brand. Like, I had filmed a show, and I hadn't. Back then, a lot of shows took like 6 months before they came on air. So you filmed it, and it's like me and Scott sat down, and he was like, "You need a business that's already running, so that once it goes online, it goes obviously live, and you get a few followers and things. You've already got a business generating some money that you can promote and really give it a push." So that was kind of how we started, and Scott at the time was doing a lot of stuff in China, so he was helping with the sourcing and things. And back then, obviously, it's like anything. You have so many problems. Like I sent samples off to China and never got them back. And do you know what I mean? I probably sent all my best clothes there when I was, when we were younger. And it's like, oh, this is a perfect fit kind of thing when you're first starting out. And we ended up getting our first bits of clothing made in Nottingham, which is not really even a place in the UK that people get stuff made. Most people get it made in Leicester. But anyway, we found a small mill in Nottingham that would do the really low quantities that we wanted, and we kind of started from there. And it was a case of could only afford to buy a certain amount, and then once we'd sold half of them, we'd kind of could afford to place another order and obviously top it up and keep going. But yeah, the nightclub thing is definitely where I've obviously gained a lot of experience and contacts and stuff like that for over the years. So yeah, we're both obviously similar backgrounds on that. And for me, it's like none of us...
Second wave as well, didn't you? Ross had his second wave on TV, and that just gave us a massive another boost, like a year into having the brand.
And that really helps. The second time round, it's when the first time round, Instagram and Twitter were kind of even. and like you had just as many followers on Instagram as Twitter, and it was kind of, you could use both platforms. But then the second time I went on Instagram, it started really picking up then. So I gained a lot more followers, and it was like the most engaged platform. So it really helped us as a new brand pushing it. And also not just me being on there, but the fact that every time I do a show and you're on TV with other people, obviously back then no one was getting paid for stuff. So everyone kind of wanted to wear clothes for free and promote it because it was cool back then. Whereas now obviously you see all these ads and everyone promoting stuff just because they're getting paid. Do you know what I mean? Which is fair enough, but back then it was a lot more genuine. So it wasn't just me. I had everyone that I'd done the shows with, and then everyone else that I knew that was in the TV world as well, all promoting for us, and it cost us next to nothing. And I will be quite honest, I don't think you could start a business on the budget we had back then now and even have a chance of creating anywhere near the success, just because of how much the social media marketing game's basically dominated by money now. So it's a lot different.
And obviously, because you just then started making, you were basically at the start, you were just making like your own basic T-shirts, quite simple. What was it that actually made you start that in the first place?
Right from the start, I was that again. Well, I'm probably not touching this, but neither of us had official fashion or business experience. Like none of us had been to uni and studied business or fashion or anything like that. But since I was younger, like, I absolutely love clothes, and that was my main thing that I've always been interested in since I was a teenager. So when we started, what I was really focusing on right at the very start was it was all about the quality and the fit. And at the time, we thought the quality was amazing. Obviously, looking back on it now, it wasn't at all. But that was what we built the brand on, and it was kind of quality fit, and it was like affordable luxury. So we're using some materials that some of the designer brands are using, but obviously for a lot of cheaper price point. And that's why I suppose we had a lot of success at the start, because everything fit well and the quality was good. And that's what it was. And we kind of were stuck in our ways with that. We didn't want to have anything heavily branded. And all we had was a little black label in the bottom left-hand corner that had the original Couture Club logo on. Like that was it. It was very minimal. And it was only until we actually, someone was like, you need a logo, like a stamp, something that everyone knows your brand by. And we were figuring out for ages, like we couldn't think of, like how do you just create a logo? It's not really something that you just create. And then we were messing about, and obviously the signature kind of just came about. And even then, because it only said couture, we weren't sure at the time if it was, is that strong enough logo? Like, is it going to be right? And then we put it on a few T-shirts, and it just started flying. So obviously that's where the logo came from. But then we decided to do a graphic T-shirt, just one to trial it. And back then it was like a case of, we got a sample in, and then me and Scott would go, and we used to have this black wall in the office that we used to take all our pictures on. Like, if you go on Google, you can still see them all now. It's funny. But we used to literally get a T-shirt, I'd put it on, me and Scott would go to this black wall, take a picture, and then we kind of promote that we were going to launch it. And we launched one, and I think we sold 55 in the first night, and it was probably, the price point was a little bit higher than what it is now. And we were like, oh my God, we've never had anything sell like this before in our life. So that's kind of when we decided, maybe we're actually more than just a plain T-shirt brand. Maybe we should actually look into these graphics and different things. And as they were working, it was kind of, we grew up into the stage of like, right, we're starting to have a little bit more money now. Let's start making like what we actually want to wear. Like everything, so we moved from just your T-shirts and things into like jackets, jeans. We even tried trainers, sunglasses, hats, caps, like all sorts of different things. So it kind of all stemmed from that first initial trial of just a graphic T-shirt, simple picture, and then here we are.
So what was it that you saw in, because I know that there was a point where people were sending you stuff for you to wear them because you were quite well known, and what was it that you saw in the things they were sending you that thought, you know what, I can do this a bit better?
You know what, that to be fair, that's taking it back again to like before it really started. Like people were sending me things, and they'd obviously give you the code and different things like that, and then I'd wear it. And it was honestly the materials, they weren't right, the fit wasn't right, and it was just, some of it wasn't the best. But at the time, obviously, like this was before I didn't really have any money at all, and I was like, free T-shirt, like I'm all over it. And then I'd up and they'd message me and be like, "Oh, we sold out of that T-shirt last night. Like, amazing. Well, really happy with it." So I was thinking, if they're selling out of that T-shirt that's not the best quality, not the best fit, probably not the best design, like something here, like I reckon I could sell something like proper. Like if it was really good quality, really nice design, like if they're selling out of it, then we can. So that was kind of why we decided to do it. And again, mate, we always had this. It's part of obviously about us and the original business thing. It's like if you can't buy it, make it. And I was so into fashion at the time that there's loads of things that I couldn't buy and I wanted to buy and I wanted to wear. And still to this day, it's very much like that. And that was partly the reason as well. It was like some things that I wanted, but I couldn't get, like the fits weren't right or different things like that. So that was kind of another reason why we started as well.
So at this point, kind of, you've started your own T-shirt stuff, still quite basic, and you're kind of bringing out your own T-shirts because what you think is out there, you think you can do a little bit better. Then Scott has been doing the selfie sticks. You've done nights together. You then come together because you think you can help each other out. What was that like? What was day one like? How did that work when you first started doing things together?
To be fair, it was kind of more of a transition into doing everything fully together because Scott had his warehouse and everything for the selfie stick and some of his other businesses, and I had a desk just in the corner. So while he was still doing all the other stuff, I was just working from a desk in the corner. And, do you know what I mean? And throughout the day, we'd be coming over about how the sales, how's everything going. So we were still both very involved. Then it was kind of just a case of it was at the time it was a sideline for Scott, and then as we started to see traction, it's when we both really came together and like, we've got something here. Let's focus on it. And we really both put our heads together. And obviously on the business side of things, Scott's a lot better than what I am. So that's when it really kind of kicked off, and we knew that we had something that we could really scale.
Obviously, you then kind of both come together. I know right at the start, you two were doing like everything, like picking, packing in the warehouse together. Like, what was that like? And like, do you miss that a bit now when you've got all these staff now?
It was the best days, wasn't it? Because we used to do everything, and it's taught us so much about the business now that, even now we've got 25 staff in head office, we sort of know every single department's job, and we know, how to sort of work with them and first of all take on their opinions, but also give good knowledge back. That's one good thing about having to start right from the bottom and sort of cover every department. But I think remember the days when we sat in a warehouse and we had a made up customer service guy called Tim, and it would be like, "Oh yeah, I just passed you the phone over to Tim," and then it'd be me or Ross just pretending to be this guy, and it was like Wolf of Wall Street. Do you know what I mean? It was just hilarious, but it was crazy because we learned so much about the business. We had to design the product, we had to send it out, we were customer services, we were picking, we were packing, we were running our own account. So now we've got 25 people in head office. It's quite good because even though we've brought people in that are a lot more experienced than what we are, we still got something to give back. So I think it's quite respectable from them to sort of have our opinion on how we were doing it, and the lessons that we learned that have been so successful for us to get to where we are today. But you'll never forget the days when we first started, and we were doing 30, 40 orders a day, and we were passing the phone to an imaginary customer service guy called Tim, and he was like, "Oh, Tim will just look into your request for you now," and then you just pass the phone to Ross. But no, it was amazing, and I never forget, like, there was so many other brands back then, and we were like, "Oh, imagine what it'd be like to do $3,000 a week," and then it'd be like, "Oh, imagine every single month you'd sort of hit a target, and then you'd supersede it," and it was just crazy. And now we look back and it's like, do you remember the days when we couldn't wait to do a $3,000 week? And it's just phenomenal.
And other things as well. It's like I can remember we sat in one of our friends' offices, and he had a huge company at the time, and he said to us, like, "Listen, boys, these are the best days. Like, make the most of it. You don't have anything to worry about at the moment." And at the time, we were like, "What's he talking about? He's making millions of pounds a week. Like, these aren't the best days. Like, no way." But realistically, when you look back, like, it was so fun and so, like, just organic. Like, like Scott touched on there, like we'd even do photography together, do you know what I mean? And neither of us have a clue what we were doing. But I think that's what makes it a lot more genuine, because we actually have made every mistake. We've kind of just had a go as two young lads without actually any qualified experience in what we're doing, and managed to build it up to this stage. And of course, like, because it was just us, we had to learn everything. So now I feel like we're a lot more advanced. We've got, do you know what I mean? We understand every department, like Scott said, and no one can really pull the wool over our eyes when it comes to how long certain things take, because we've done it all. So and we still, to be fair, we're still very, very hands-on. Now that when it gets to Black Friday and our warehouse manager goes mad at us, we still go in ourselves to the warehouse and help out, and do, whether it's a night shift or whatever it is, we'll go in there and stay overnight and just get all the orders out, just to try and make sure that the customer gets the best possible series, where there's not many probably bosses that pay so many people's wages that still want to do that. But we love it, do you know what I mean? It's our baby, and as we've got older,
biggest asset.
Yeah.
It's our biggest asset, isn't it? Like, we would never ask a member of staff to do anything that we wouldn't be prepared to do ourselves or had done ourselves. So I think that's why, you know, we've got a hard-working team, why you know, we're respected. And, you know, even now, we've got to go to London and we've got to go to all these different meetings. It's never a question of, you know, the office is left and there's going to be a bit of a jolly up if we're not there, because it's just the work rate and that we've sort of set for the team to sort of follow. It's just, you know, everyone knows the story. Everyone knows that we bought it from the ground up, and we've been through struggles and we've had good years and bad years. But it's just nice. It's like a little family, like a little Couture Club family in the office.
I think I've said this to you two before, haven't I? That, you know, it's similar to, you know, Greggs, kind of the bakers in Newcastle. So they're like obviously a huge company around the UK, and their head office is in Newcastle, and they have got bakers in the bottom of the head office. So that obviously people can get food and stuff who are on that retail estate. But whoever you are, when you go and get a job at Greggs in head office, whether you are going in as finance director or you're going in as a cleaner or whatever, your first 2 weeks are in that bakery, whether you're making steak bakes or sausage rolls, so that everyone gets that core business. And do you think that because you can do that, that's probably been maybe your biggest advantage? You know, I know that, Ross, you'll sometimes jump in and go, you know what, we need to release a t-shirt, but we've got no photographer, no like massive light and stuff, but I'll go with my phone, we'll do it, we'll bang it out, and it makes you a bit quicker and you can move things around and adapt a bit more.
Definitely, yeah. I absolutely love that Greg story. I think that's brilliant. Like, I actually even think for staff joining with us, it'd be brilliant for them to the first week kind of do a day in each different department before they even start their own department.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Like it's quite an interesting like concept, but yeah, it's great that. But yeah, definitely, I think for us, it's just we've had a lot of growth because we've reacted. We're very fast at reacting. We monitor everything very closely. So even if, like in the past, say you had a down day, what was the reason? Why didn't you? What can we do to make the next day better? And rather than I know a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, it's just down this week. But for a whole week to be down means that you've done nothing about the first 2 days or the first day that it was down. It's kind of like, if it's down, what's the reasons and what can we do to change it? So we're very, very reactive with a lot of things.
So was there a point at the start where suddenly you went, hold on, like this actually might have some legs, like some serious legs?
I think so. It was when I wasn't there.
Do you know what it was? Ross went back on a TV show, and we must have been 2 years in, and our biggest problem was that we never had terms with our suppliers. And then I don't know what happened, but this supplier gave us 45-day terms.
Do you want to just explain what that is for somebody who doesn't know?
Yeah, so everything, usually when we set up, it was pro forma. We'd pay cash on delivery, if not paying a deposit before they'd even start the work. But then, you know, the bigger companies, they get 0% deposits, and then they don't have to pay for the stock till like maybe 30, 45 or 60 days after it's arrived.
Yeah.
So getting those terms, Ross was away. Ross was back on X on the beach, and we got these terms from this factory that we started working with for about over a year, and you know we weren't ever late on payments, etc., etc. So we just pushed them, and then you know our orders are like 10 grand because it's all we could sort of really commit to, because again, like everything was up front. So we got 45-day terms, and I just ordered whatever I wanted to order, basically. And I think it was like a £90,000 order, loads of tracksuits. It was a Sierra tracksuit. Do you remember, Ross?
Yeah.
Sierra tracksuit.
Make a comeback.
I know. So we brought it out in 3 different colours, loads of T-shirts. And then what happened, mate, was within 2 weeks of the 45 days, we had the money to pay the factory back. And all of a sudden, it just allowed us to grow and grow and grow even quicker, because our stock package just got bigger and bigger. So our SKU base was bigger. We had a lot more product. We weren't running out of things, on launch night, and all of a sudden it just changed everything for us. So payment terms were one of the biggest reasons where we thought, fucking hell, it's got some legs, this.
Ross, you might have to go away more often.
Yeah, no, I do think about it, mate, but it's a bit tough at the moment. But yeah,
to be fair, if he didn't go away, the stock probably would have dried out at some point. So it was a good job he went away and sort of, again, got that extra following, and all the people that were on the show were wearing it. Ross was even when Ross was away, he was still promoting the brand because he was wearing it every day on the show. So,
yeah, that was one of the best things. And I can remember being in there and they take your phones off your sofa. For 8 weeks, I didn't have a phone. And then I rang Scott and he was like, it's the first, as soon as I got out, sounds bad this, but before I rang my mum or anyone like that, I rang Scott and was like, how's everything going? He was like, mate, I've just ordered like nearly 100 grams of his stuff. I was like, are you joking? I was like, bro, I've been away 8 weeks. What are you talking about? You've ordered nearly 100 grams of your stuff. And he was like, yeah, it's all right, mate. We sold through most already. I was like, oh my God. I was like, brilliant. So I remember getting back and being buzzing. And we went there, and that was a time when we just transitioned from doing everything ourselves to we're using a company for like their office space and access to their team. So we could basically, there was a designer there that I'd like take an hour a day out of or whatever and kind of work with her, and she designed properly rather than like our kind of scribbles and trying to explain things and then finding a graphic designer that could help us. And because they were doing the fulfillment, so they were sending all the orders out for us, it meant that we could really focus on like promoting it. So we literally used to just sit on a little 2-person's desk next to each other in a corner of an office and just come up constantly with marketing ideas every single day. And then we just really started seeing some growth then. And I think that's when everyone all of a sudden kind of started paying attention and really like recognize the brand as like, oh, it's not just a bedroom brand, and it is actually going to go somewhere.
Was there any like really kind of hard times or things that you've done and you've thought, oh my God, like we will not do that again?
Loads.
Yeah, we had a really tough, in 2018, we had the Trafford Centre for about 6 months, and Trafford Centre was doing amazing. So we had this massive appetite to continue opening up more stores. And going back to not wholesaling the brand, we've seen a lot of brands having success in JD and places like that. So we set up a sister brand called...
Because you got offered to go into JD, didn't you? And you didn't think that was right?
Yeah, we got offered to go in, and we just thought, do you know what? The minute we go into JD, will the footballers carry on wearing it, and do we lose a bit of coolness and stuff like that? So we set up a brand to do exactly what Couture Club wasn't, and do wholesale. And then in the same year, we opened up a store in Dublin and a store in Newcastle. And we didn't even have a financial person. We had this guy that was advising us 2 days a week. And, we didn't have cash flow forecasts or anything like that. So we just took on so much to the point where, each store was £100,000 investment. The new brand was £150,000 investment. And, even though we were seeing all the money coming in every day, it just caught up with us. So we thought we were invincible. We were having so much success, and we just took on so much. And again, the stores did okay for us. They weren't what the Trafford Centre was, but we're Manchester lads, Manchester brand, and it was the ideas in the stores are, go and do a store in a city for 6 months and then drive the traffic back to the online, and it definitely worked. So, the minute we left Dublin, our online sales in Dublin were 500% up year on year. So it definitely worked, but just that capital outlay into so much, and have me and Ross, instead of concentrating on just online, we had online 3 stores, sister brand. It just sort of really caught up with us, didn't it, Ross?
Yeah, and again, at the time, we were making a lot of, like, as a lot of people say, like ego moves. Like, we were doing a lot of things to promote the brand and getting the brand out there. We were really, like, not wasting money, but reinvesting in the brand, but seriously heavily compared to, like, even what we do now. And the brand grew massively, but at the same time, the profit was nowhere near where it should have been. So I think it was a big realization for myself and Scott. And I think from then we've kind of been focused really on building the business as a long-term business that generates really good profit each year. Whereas I think at the time we were just so focused on like these big number turnovers and everything, like like you hear about these big companies doing massive numbers. So I think we were more focused on that than we were actually the profit at the time.
Just to go back on something you said, Scott, that you did say no to JD. I know you then put Elsato into JD, which is a brand you then created. But to an outsider looking in, for you to say no to JD Sports, that almost seems like, bloody hell, that takes balls to say no to a giant like that. And it almost seems a little bit like maybe counterintuitive to somebody who doesn't have an understanding like maybe you had after doing selfie sticks. So why did you say no?
So JD came in, right, and again, we look at other brands that were sort of in our space, and they've gone into JD. They made a fortune out of JD for a couple of years, and JD is amazing for building a brand up, but we just think that we wanted Couture Club to be around 15, 20 years, and the brands that have I'm not going to name names, but the brands that have gone in there, and then JD will do everything they can to drive as many sales as they can, and then as soon as the sales dip from that one brand, it's a new brand will come in, and then they'll have a great 2 or 3 year stint, 4 year stint if they're lucky. But we just sort of really we've spent so long building this brand, and we've had so much success online. We're not ready to sort of not throw it away, but put it into a retailer where you're going to be in mass markets, you're going to be in stores in places that you're never even going to visit. You've got no control over. You'd be next to brands that you don't particularly see yourself as
aligned with,
wanting to align with, and it's a difficult one. And listen, JD, Foot aside, they've done amazing at building brands up, but for us it was just we want 10, 15, 20 years plus out of Couture Club, and it's not going to happen that for us if we go into a JD and instead of selling 100,000 units of clothing a year, we're selling 500,000, because as soon as it becomes a mass market product, the people that we want in our clothing are going to stop wearing it.
Something to be kind of, I guess, to go a little bit back to your journey, something I wanted to ask you was, it's a bit kind of left field, but I think both of you have come from backgrounds in nightlife. Candypants, obviously nightlife brand. A lot of people often look at people who do like events and stuff and just think, just stupid lads who want to get pissed all the time, which, don't get me wrong, there's enough of us who just do that, fair enough. But what is it, do you think, that has made so many people who've come through that nightlife model early on in life go on to do such big things like, yourselves, like obviously Adam and Drew with Tattoo? I mean, there's just so many people who've come through nightlife, then gone on business-wise to achieve quite a lot. Do you think there's a reason behind that?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say a lot of it is kind of drives. Like nightlife, what people don't understand is a club doesn't fill itself. People don't just all decide on one night to go to a club. It doesn't happen. There's a lot of hard work, thought, constant hustling, kind of like pestering people in a way every single day. Kind of, you'll know exactly what it's like, especially when you're starting a new night. You've kind of got to throw it in people's faces and constantly promote it. So everyone that's succeeded in nightlife is so driven. It's
when you're the promoter of a night, it's your job to go around and be a social chameleon and make sure that a student's having a great night, and then one of your friends is having a great night, but then the two guys that come in that are massive property investors that have got the VIP table, they're having a good night. So you've got to learn very quickly in an easy environment, because you're all having a drink, but you've got to learn very quickly how to adapt and sort of be able to hold conversations with all different walks of people. And I think if you can do that, and you go into a meeting and you can adapt as soon as you're in that room, it just gives you so much more. Just having that ability to sort of get onto somebody's wavelength, hold your own and sort of socialise in a way that you might not have done if you weren't sort of in front of 500 people every Thursday, you know, that wanted to speak to you, and you wanted to speak to them because you wanted to make sure they have a good night and they come back the following week. It was just learning how to adapt very, very quickly.
I mean, to go a little bit back to your journeys yourselves as well, obviously you got to a point where you've had this rapid growth online, Ross has been on TV, and it's suddenly gathered quite a lot of momentum. So then you've decided to start open a store. And I think to a lot of people who look at things, they're constantly told the high street's dead. To do that to an outsider, again, might have been looked like, are they mad? So tell us what the thinking was to suddenly go and open stores.
It was a mad decision, mate. We were still only 2 years old, and there's an opportunity to do. It was around the £100,000 billboard campaign just going into Q4. And we'd done things like taxis before. We'd done the odd billboard here and there. And then this opportunity in Trafford Centre came up, and it was October to January, and it was a 3-month pop-up. And, you know, we thought, I think once we did all the, you know, the design mock-ups, we realised that the cost would be similar to what we were going to do this national campaign with. And we thought, do you know what? We've got a chance here to do something completely different to what all the other bedroom brands have done. We're Manchester lads. Again, we can treat it like a nightclub. We can do a launch party. We can do different events every single Thursday. We put a barbers in there. We had a DJ in there, and it was just an opportunity that we thought, you know what, we've got nothing to lose here. We had the capital to do one or the other, and we just went with the store. And another thing that we did with the stores was, you know, everybody wanted this growing up, you know, going to school or going to high school, you know, if you had a bag to take your peek at, and it'd be the Selfridges bag because it was the coolest thing in the world, and you'd have people going to Selfridges and buying a £10, £10 pair of socks just to get the yellow bag. So we sort of went, well, do you know what? We'll try and do something similar. We'll create this, you know, matte black bag with a big red signature on it, and that can be the new Selfridges bag. And, you know, people will come to us and they'll buy it, and then for the next 2 or 3 weeks, they'll take the lunch to work in the same bag, or they'll take the gym kit in the same bag. And we just sort of, there was a couple of things like, and again, going back to the DJ and the bar, there's a couple of things that we did differently than the other stores were doing. Again, learning from being nightclub promoters and everything else. It sort of really took off from day dot. And I'll never forget the first sale that, and this is what a massive sort of retail store and a retail shopping mall will do for you. The first sale, me and Ross were sat behind the till. This middle-aged woman, she couldn't have been no younger than 40. She came in and she spent £300, and I went, can I just ask you if you heard about the brand before? And she goes, no. I just walked past it, could see that there was an atmosphere in there. I've got a young lad, and I thought I'd come in and buy something. It was like, wow, you know, we've got an opportunity here that people, you know, we can really, you know, what better billboard can you have than a shop in the Trafford Centre?
Obviously, you have gone from kind of just the two of you to now having all these staff, like in the warehouse, in the office, in the stores. What's that been like, and has that been like hard to kind of adjust?
Well, it's tough, mate, because we like little things that you do, like, so just before Christmas we had a new starter, and it worked 2 weeks solid on launching a mobile phone app for us pre-Black Friday. And it was a new starter, and I just sent a harmless email to, we have an office email group, and I sent a harmless email just saying, guys, can everyone just appreciate how well such and such has worked hard on this app, and, you know, he's only been with us for 2 weeks, what a phenomenal new member. And I just thought I was doing something so innocent, and, you know, just making somebody feel part of the team as quickly as I could, and recognising the hard work that he'd done. And all of a sudden the whole office is looking at me like, well, you never sent an email like that about me, and I've been with you for 2 years. And it's like, you know, it's difficult in that sense, because you do make mistakes harmlessly where you don't realise that you could potentially be upsetting people and things like that. But I think, you know, we're always going to be learning. There's always there's so many different personalities, and, you know, me and Ross are in all the WhatsApp groups for the stores, and there's so much drama that goes on in the stores with, you know, you can imagine you've got 25 students working on a part-time basis for you, and such and such has kissed such and such after a night out, and me and Ross are in all the groups, and it's just like you have to just sort of take yourself away from it a little bit sometimes, and realise that you are the boss and you are the person that's supposed to set the example. And and me and Ross are just two young lads, and we like to get involved with the banter and stuff like that as well. So it's just learning. It's just learning that you've got to act in a certain manner. I think
a lot of things I've learned recently, it's like just calming yourselves down and thinking about things a lot more before you kind of answer. Like, I've just gone through life just being myself and kind of got where I am today from that. But then when you're a boss, you can't necessarily react towards a member of staff the same way you would if it was one of your mates or someone else in normal life. Say someone spoke to you in a certain way, you've got to think about it and react in the way that a boss would react rather than necessarily me being me.
I know you've kind of said that you're almost like learning as you go, but it kind of, I don't know if it ever sinks into you how amazing it actually is. I remember being away in Dubai, coming back to Newcastle, where at home where my mum lives, and walking through the Metro Centre and just seeing like a Couture Club store and thinking, bloody hell, like that's Ross and Scott, they've got a shop. Like, have you ever had any moments where you've just thought, bloody hell, look how far we've come?
There's definitely days when it gets us like, we'll never forget when we opened up the London store, and it was just so stressful because it was our biggest. London was a big move for us, and you're talking about a percentage of turnover deals in the Trafford Centre. To then, you have to commit to a certain amount of rent, and it's just a complete risk. And we want it to be right, and so we opened up the London store. And the night before, if you'd have been in the store at 8 o'clock the night before, you'd have thought there's absolute no chance these guys are open up before Monday, and it was a Thursday. And we had a handyman that's worked right through with us, and I was cleaning the toilets till 2 o'clock in the morning, and then the store opened at 10 o'clock the next day, and we did the first people that came in were this young couple from Birmingham, and they come in and they spent a fortune. And I think me and Ross just went into the back and just hugged each other and cried for a few minutes because it was this massive relief, but then realisation of we just opened a store in London, in the biggest shopping centre in London. And it was like, wow, it was just a wow moment. But they don't come around too often because, like Ross says, you're working so far ahead. It's difficult to sort of, stop and look at where you are, because I feel like that's when you'll start taking things for granted.
What's the goal for the both of you now? Like, what's the aim to be, in maybe 10 years' time?
I think for us is obviously initially where we're at now. The UK is obviously growing massively, but we've seen a lot of a pickup internationally now. So for us, it's really kind of replicating what we've built so far in the UK, but globally, and really just turn it into what I'd class as a globally well-known brand rather than a kind of well-known brand in the UK that sells globally.
I think a dream for us in the next few years, we'd like to take a full summer and go and spend it over in LA and have a little pop-up store and just test the market over there, because our products, all the guys that go to LA on holidays and stuff like that, it's very much an American style product, and without any marketing spend, like Ross said, we've seen a massive pickup over there. So I think that a short term goal, in the next couple of years, would definitely to go over there and run a store for a couple of months. But it's so hard, mate, because if you'd asked me last year what the goal was, then you sort of achieve that goal, and then it's hard to set a 10-year goal because the business is so fast paced. You set a 12-month goal and achieve it, and then realise that you could be doing so much more in that 10-year time. So for us, it's sort of, we work a lot more to short-term goals, don't we, Ross? And then see where that takes us.
You've spoken a lot about longevity and trying to make the brand last. One thing I was interested at, especially with you, Scott, since you've had your little boy, has that made much of a difference to you and how you see the business?
Yeah, I think my little boy, and I think COVID helped me a lot with that, because me and Ross sort of work probably minimum 6 days a week, maybe 7. You're doing things that you probably don't need to do, like going to the stores after work to make sure everything's set out. When you've got a team of 25 that are more than capable of doing it. I did suffer for the first 12 months with my little lad, and I didn't really have that bond that I've got with him now. And life does change, and it's not all about work and chasing money all the time. But especially for us now that we've built a team, we've got £1 million a year salaries. There's no reason for us really to sort of not take them 2 days off and spend time with family. And you can get so involved with business and work and opportunities, but number one's always got to be family, hasn't it?
So I know we've said this to you before. if you could make a phone call to your past selves, so Ross, you could ring yourself now, but ring the person who was selling the T-shirts from their bedroom, and Scott maybe just when you'd kind of come on board with Ross, what do you think you'd say to yourselves now based on what you know?
Get a fucking accountant quick.
I was just about to say something along the same lines. It was kind of like, listen, I pride myself that we both still dreamers. Like, if someone says, "Can you do that?" I'll say, "Yeah," and then figure out how to do it after. But I think along the way, there's been times when, say, we've kind of possibly ran before we could have walked along the way. So it's probably just having transparency on your business, actually being able to look at all different departments of it and understand the financial side of everything and what each different thing does and how much it's returning. Whereas before, we did a lot of trials because we didn't know. We just, we'll do a billboard kind of campaign, and like, you couldn't really gauge your ROI on it. Whereas now, every single thing that we look at, we can see the return on it. So it's a tough one, because I kind of like that we've made all the mistakes that we have, because I feel like that's made us a lot better than we would have been. But then at the same time, this will probably skip making all the mistakes and probably be a lot more beneficial now. So yeah, I'd probably along them lines.
It'd be slow down, wouldn't it? You just say, Scott Ross, slow down, and make sure that you report it on a monthly basis, weekly basis, rather than running a whole year and then looking at the accounts at the end of the year and sat down with your accountant and going, what? Really? Do you know what I mean? So I think for us, it was, if we could not regret, but if we could have slowed down 1 year and sort of just really stabilised, then luckily we managed to get out of that situation and still standing on our feet now. So it's not really a regret, but I think just slowing down and making sure that you're doing things for the right reasons, not just because you want to say that you've got 3 stores and 90 staff. It's more because, well, what's the point of having 3 stores if we can't afford to keep running them? So I think for us, it'd just be slow down, make sure that you're making the moves for the right reasons for the business rather than the right reasons for your ego, really.
Do you know what? The nicest thing I can probably say to you both is, obviously we have so many different people on this podcast, kind of a lot of people who, come from similar backgrounds that we have. They know who you are. And they're always asking, who else have you had on? Like, who have you been speaking to? And the number of people who are just collectively so proud of what you've done and so happy for what you've achieved, it's mind-blowing. And I think that's probably the nicest thing I could say to you, that so many people are so happy for you because they know how hard you've worked and they know that if anybody deserves to do well, it's you too.
No, I really appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'll send you that 20 quid in the post.
Leave it on.
I had to get to a finale somehow. It really is hard to wish nothing but the best for those boys, who I'm sure we're all going to hear a lot more about over the next few years. We'll be back next week with another guest, but if you're searching for your daily dose of Candypants before then, don't panic. You can still tune into Candypants Radio, which gives you a full hour of the latest music every single Thursday. To listen, simply search Candypants Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. But from me, as always, a very big thank you for listening, and we'll see you all very soon.